So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, and welcome to this humanitarian talk from Myanmar as part of the European Humanitarian Forum. So this session has been pre-recorded as there are significant power and internet outages in Myanmar, and we wanted to ensure that the session was delivered smoothly. So apologies that we cannot be there for a live event. The session today will focus on attempts to advance localization commitments and to strengthen local humanitarian response through the ECHO-funded First Line Emergency Response Approach, the FLARE Consortium in Myanmar. Drawing from practical and localized experience in Kachin State, Myanmar, the session will explore the realities, the challenges, and the benefits of the localization of humanitarian aid, including the readiness of local actors with regards to donor compliance, the challenges of upholding commitments to principled partnerships, and the opportunities to engage at the decision-making table. So we're really lucky to have two very experienced local NGO leaders with us today to speak about the challenges and the opportunities that they have experienced as part of the FLARE project in Kachin. So a very warm welcome to both of our speakers today. Firstly, may I please ask Father Joseph to speak from KMSF Machina. Just come off mute and introduce yourself and your organization, please, Father Joseph.
Yes, hello everyone. I'm Father Joseph Jayo, a director of KMSS, and KMSS has been doing humanitarian development and peace. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you so much, Father Joseph. And secondly, may I ask Sayama Senkai from Chad to come off mute and introduce yourself and your organization.
Thank you very much for giving this opportunity to participate in this discussion. So let me introduce myself. My name is Senkai. I'm currently working as a director in Chad Community Health and Development. Community Health and Development is a Chad peace organization and also free peace organization. We are currently working for development and humanitarian response. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Senkai. It's really great to have you with us today. And finally, let me introduce myself. So I am Ashley Prowse, and I'm the country director for TROCRA in Myanmar. TROCRA is a Catholic agency for overseas development. It's the official overseas development agency of the Catholic Church in Ireland and is also a member of the Caritas Internationalis Federation. And we've been working with local and national actors in Myanmar since 1995, and our work that we support spans the spectrum of humanitarian development and peace building initiatives. So without further ado, let me move into our question and answer session, and we can get started. So as I mentioned before, this session will really focus on local perspectives on the role of donors and the pressures of donor compliance and grant management requirements, and the readiness of local and national organizations to take this on in Myanmar, considering the failure of the banking system following the military coup. So our first session will really look at some of these operational constraints, and it might help for those of you calling in from other countries, to have a little background about the humanitarian context that we're facing in Myanmar and specifically in Kachin State. So as you know, most of you will be aware that in February 2021, there was an attempted military coup in Myanmar. The Myanmar military has attempted to take control of the country with the consequence of a significant civilian uprising, and inflammation of existing armed ethnic conflicts across the country, causing significant disruption, numerous deaths, and a really catastrophic consequences for both human rights and humanitarian context. In Myanmar now, there's around 14.4 million people in need of humanitarian assistance, according to the latest humanitarian needs overview from the UN. And also around 50% of the people are now below the poverty line in Myanmar, as so many jobs have been lost as a response to both COVID-19 and the military coup. Significantly, the banking system has been very disrupted as a combination of military controls and also international sanctions, which has made it very challenging indeed to transfer money to local and national organizations or to receive international transfers. So first, we'll move to our questions around these complicated operating environments. So Sayama Senkai, if I can come to you first. In this challenging context like Myanmar, and drawing from your practical experience, what are the main difficulties or barriers related to donor compliance and grant management for national or local organizations in Kachin? Over to you, Sayama Senkai.
Thank you for this question. If I have to answer regarding these main challenges or barriers to donor compliance and grant management for local CSO or local NGO. As you all know, here now in the Myanmar situation, according to this COVID-19 and military coups, we are facing the many challenges related to donor compliance and grant management. For example, it is pressure to follow a draw project timeline. The rule that the budget must be completed within the time period. Instead of focusing on the quality of the project, focus on project completion. Frequent revision of budget, banking system also, and many requirements and guidelines from donor sides. And then the last one is operation. So sometimes the operation and regulation of donors are not very comfortable for the locals. For example, the rules they set are difficult to implement in the areas, inconsistent with the region or local, asking for what they want without regard for the region. Also, I would like to talk about registration. Some donors or partners do not want to work together without registration. Of course, registration is very important for every organization, but I think we should give the opportunity or a chance based on the capacity of the civil society that is actually working. It feels unfair for those who are really working hard to lead for the local community to make a decision based on registration. I want all of you to be involved in thinking seriously about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sayama Senkai, for those really interesting reflections. And we'll move now to Father Joseph. So Father Joseph, from your perspective, what needs to happen for national and local organizations to be able to manage humanitarian donor funding directly in a context like Myanmar? Over to you, Father Joseph.
In order to manage the project well, and also to follow the donors' compliance. I think it is question, right? We need, we might have some requirements due to the donor requests, and also guidelines, principles, and also policies. We need to have policies, this and that, and also the document for the audit, and all these things we need to follow. Local organizations has to follow all these things, and also all this must be the challenges for the local organizations, but gradually it makes us more perfect and also more skillful organizations, and also comprehensive organizations in near future. And also the banking systems also very crucial for the smooth management of the project. And this is the challenges that we have been facing, but if we could overcome all these things, that will be our success and also our improvement. Thank you. Over.
Thank you for those responses. I think a really good introduction to our session today. So Sayama Senkai, thanks for drawing our attention to the need for donor compliance to be responsive to the context. that especially in Myanmar, we've had such a dramatic change in the environment over the last year, that there's a sense that maybe donor compliance and rules and regulations are not catching up with the fact that we're in a very different operating environment with a lot more risks and challenges for meeting compliance standards from local and national organizations, with a focus perhaps on delivering projects on time and on budget, with less focus perhaps on what is really needed from community side or quality of the projects that are being delivered. You also drew our attention to the restrictions that can be artificially placed on local organizations with requirements like, for example, to be formally registered with the government. And in Myanmar, the current context, this is extremely politicized and challenging. Okay, sorry about that. So let's just move on to our second set of questions now. And the second area of power dynamics, partnership principles, and the transfer of security risks, and the challenge of upholding commitments to principal partnership when local organizations bear high safety and security risks, especially under a rapid response mechanism like the FLAIR mechanism. So first to Father Joseph, if you don't mind, drawing from your practical experience, what are the types of safety and security risks faced by KMSS and other local organizations when implementing humanitarian actions and response in Kachin? And how are these risks shared with INGO or donor partners? Over to you, Father Joseph.
Yes, this is a very important questions, and for the safety and security of the organizations as well as the staff, we need some agreement with the donors and also the partners, between donors and partners. That will be very much important for the safety and securities. We would like to request the donors to understand the local organizations and also the local partners. We are working in the field levels, in the field, and also they have many risks, and there's many risks, and we have to overcome all these things. And we know the situations, and also the present situations in Myanmar is a complex situation, and we request donors to understand about the ground situation and to reduce some compliance and also the policies in order to respond quickly. That will make us, that will make the partners and also the implementers, the beneficiaries, more safety and securities. For this, we KMSS have a channel to work with the parishes and also the ground beneficiaries, and try to communicate smoothly, and taking information from them. And we have been implementing with the recommendation letters and all these things, COVID test certificate, and all these things we bring along on the way. And with that, we try to make ourselves, our staff, safety. We try to do safety and security, as well as in order to implement the activities and also to risk our response to the beneficiaries very promptly. In this way, we are trying our best. Thank you very much.
Father Joseph. And Saima Senkai, maybe you can add to this. So how could humanitarian donors better support local organizations in high-risk contexts like Kachin to better facilitate or support that localized emergency response? Over to you, Senkai.
Thank you for this question. Regarding this question, if I say that donors should always be aware of the current situation in your partner country and be able to provide advice. Give a time, provide flexible opportunity. For example, timeline extension, the project activity should be given the opportunity to manage the project activity based on the current situation. So the presentation of the current IP must be taken seriously. Instead of forcing the two sides should discuss together, life insurance must also consider. In terms of safety and security, we would like to include what kind of guarantees and support the donor partner can provide. Sometimes a donor partner push a local organization to focus on what they want to achieve regardless of the real situation on the ground, making pressure. When to think about how to help without pressure, strong must have coordination and cooperation. And the last one, the local community and CSO vice should be involved for considering. Thank you very much. How about you?
Thanks so much to both of you. These are amazing answers and really give us a very deep insight on the challenges that you're facing, your organizations are facing while implementing programming Kachin at this time. And Steve highlighted some of those safety and security concerns and the steps that your organizations have been able to take to mitigate them with your own staff training and support. But you've really, I think, done a great job of highlighting the challenges that can come when partnerships between international donors or international implementing organizations and local and national actors are not sufficiently open and listening to each other. The importance of hearing from the ground actors and from communities as well on what is actually going on and being responsive to those challenges that you face on the ground. Father Joseph and Senkai, you both highlighted also the need for flexibility, both on donor requirements, timelines, and also the content of projects. So being able to say and come back to say that the context has changed and the challenges that you're facing, so what you're hearing from communities has also changed, and that you may it may be necessary to change how you're working as a result. Thank you very much to both of you. We'll move now to our third topic on coordination and influence. I think this is a very interesting part of shifting the power, in particular to local and national actors. We are asking here if or how shifting significant funding to a localized organization gives them a legitimate seat at the decision-making table, including, for example, in this project, the FLAIR Steering Committee, the Humanitarian Country Team, or the Area Humanitarian Country Team, and other strategic coordination mechanisms. So first to Father Joseph then. So could you tell us a little bit, Father Joseph, about how much of an influence or voice do local organizations have on humanitarian funding, on coordination and models of implementation, both at Kachin state level and national level in Myanmar? Over to you, Father Joseph.
Thank you. I could say that we are somewhat influenced on the significant fundings to our local organizations, significant influence on international, national, and also local, because we have been participating in the JST Joint Strategic Team, as well as we have been participating in the AECT meeting, GCM meeting, and XCT meeting in the national level. And with that, also we can make voice, we can report the needs and the gaps of the affected people, and also we can advocate to the UN, NGOs, and other organizations. And with that, besides from the church, also we can we have been advocating to the state level and also national level. State, we could advocate to the state government, at the same time, national government through the church leaders. And there is somewhat influence to the stakeholders, nationals, and at the same time, CBCM conference, they could advocate to the international level. With that, CAMSS has some voice and influence to the state level, CSO, and also international levels with the support of the church leaders. That's why we have some kind of support from the international, national, and local. That is how we have been working and how much we influence to others. And also we have a strategic team, joint strategic team. With that also we can report to the OCHA, and OCHA reports to the international. With that, humanitarian assistance comes to Myanmar, and now we are working with UN, NGO, and CIMOs, Caritas members. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Father Joseph. That's really great and interesting to hear all those different avenues of influence. Sayama Senkai, for you, how important is it to arrive at a decision-making table or a coordination group as a directly funded humanitarian partner? And what would need to change for that to happen? Over to you, Sayama Senkai.
Thank you very much. This question is quite good. So if I have to answer this question, yes, it's very important. Local organizations should have, but I just here would like to highlight about local organization. So local organizations should have the right to participate directly in decision making because they can tell what is really happening on the ground field. It will make the work more efficient and effective. The delay can be reduced. The process does not take long. The step-by-step presentation process is time-consuming. Implementation will be faster if the process can be discussed directly. Despite many difficulties during the COVID-19 and military coups, local organizations took the lead in the like current situation here in Myanmar. Local organizations play a key role in supporting community, ensuring an emergency response, increasing access to essential service and building community resilience to tackle significant social and economic challenges, all the while several restrictions and risks themselves. If you are focusing on encouraging and empowering local organizations, it is very important to consider their voice and their concerns. Locals have always been very supportive on their community. The main players on the ground are local CSO. Give them the skills and knowledge they really need. In such situation in Myanmar, they are the only ones who can actually travel on the battlefield. But we all understand that local people may need a lot of skills. Given this need and empowering them, they will be able to return to their communities and stand on their own. There is still a great need for local people to be given the opportunity to exercise their right to freedom of expression. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Sayama Senkai, for those really powerful words. I think it's been really interesting to hear from both of you on this issue around coordination and influence. And Father Joseph, you really highlighted all the different avenues that are uniquely available to local and national networks in Myanmar. This is probably true in other countries also. Faith-based networks and the joint strategy team, which is a collaboration between several national and local actors in Kachin, provides a really strong advocacy platform and engagement with the humanitarian country teams. And I think that through the church networks and through religious actors, you also have influence and power to change decision-making in ways that international organizations don't have. You have an understanding of the political networks and the social dynamics in Myanmar that international organizations and their representatives don't have. And Sayama Senkai, I think you've done a great job in highlighting just how important it is to listen to the voices of local and national organizations, and to do that in a meaningful way, giving them a real decision-making power and a place at the coordination table that is meaningful, that is empowered, and that is respectful of the unique status of local and national actors. And in Myanmar, indeed, the first responders and the largest responders are the network of CSOs and national NGOs that have unimpeded access across the country, and are not subject to the same restrictions on movement as international individuals or personnel. So I think there's so much to be said for making these forums more inclusive, and also equipping local and national actors to have some of the skills that might be needed to sit at these tables and to participate in a meaningful way. So thank you so much to both of you for your participation today. I think we've had a really interesting discussion around, I think, some of the unique aspects of the context in Myanmar and the challenges that are being faced in Kachin State, but also really interesting to reflect on how we can generalize your experiences around the challenges of working in a now much more extremely violent situation, while trying to balance donor compliance regulations and requirements for audit, for example, managing your own safety and security in an atmosphere where donors might not always be listening to you or fully understanding the context that you're now working in. So I think both of you have done a great job of really bringing light to this situation in Myanmar, really bringing these challenges to the table today. So I'd like to thank you both very much for your participation and your time. I'd like to hand over to you now if you have final remarks or final recommendations that you would like to make to the participants today. So maybe Father Joseph, if you have any final remarks or recommendations, I'll hand over to you first. Over to you, Father Joseph.
Thank you, Ashley. It's a great chance for me to discuss about how Eco Flower project is very useful and also effective, and also very crucial in this time of difficulties in Myanmar. Our coordination, our understanding, and our flexibilities are very crucial in this time of difficulties, and also we feel that we have been supporting one another, office by office, for a policy, for a structure, for a capacities, and also for a compliance. We understand, and also we work together for the needs of the people, and also how we have been working hand in hand, and we understand one another. That is the best way for localization, and also the best way for the prompt response of the emergencies. That is what I could see, and also if we could do in the future also, that will be very effective, and also very crucial, and very happy to respond to the beneficiaries, to the affected people. At the same time, the affected people also very happy by our support, and that is what I want to say. Thank you very much. God bless you all.
Thank you very much, Father Joseph. And Sayama Senkai, do you have any final recommendations or thoughts you'd like to share?
Thank you very much for this opportunity. So I would like to give some final remarks and suggestions to all of you. So I ask all of you to consider not just listening to what I have just shared today, but also think about how to implement it. So during COVID-19 and military coups duration in Myanmar, we have experienced many failures in the workplace and communities. There are more refugees in our country. There is a growing number of refugees in areas that did not exist before. In view of this, a humanitarian response is becoming more and more essential. So thanks to you all for helping to the affected people. Suddenly, not only humanitarian now, but also their livelihoods are becoming increasingly important. As a local needs to very supported to strengthen the local humanitarian response in this situation. Their roles has become even more important now. It would be great to include livelihood, wash protection in emergency flood response. It is better set a minimum response time of 1 week to 10 days. Do more state level sharing section to learn more. Thank you very much for your attention. Yeah.
Thanks very much to both of you for those closing remarks. I think we've had a really interesting discussion today, and my three key takeaways are that all donors and implementing organizations that work with local and national partners should be really reflective and intent on listening and understanding the challenges that local organizations are facing, particularly with regards to safety and security, and the challenges that can be placed in meeting compliance standards, and creating an atmosphere of true partnership where we're both listening and appreciating the challenges that they're facing, but also being responsive to changes in the context. And I think within that, we all have heard today the importance of the power dynamics that are implicit within these relationships. That when local and national organizations, and indeed CSOs and communities themselves, are giving us, the international community, feedback that things need to be done in a different way, that it's beholden upon us to take action and to listen to that feedback. And lastly, my key takeaway is, as an organization, that we have to seek more opportunities to enable our local and national partners to have a meaningful and accessible seat at coordination tables. And also, I think one thing that I'm taking away from this conversation is that we also need to respect and understand more effectively as international organizations the coordination and networks that already exist between local responders and their decision makers, and not expect them to be fit into the international UN-led humanitarian architecture. So it's been really valuable and interesting for me to hear from you both. I hope it has been interesting for those attending our talk today. And just to close today, I'd like to thank you both again, both for participation today, but also for all of your work on the field and your engagement in Kachin, and the great work that both your organizations are achieving at such a time of difficulty in Myanmar. So thank you very much, Father Joseph. Thank you very much, Saima Senkai, and we will close the session there. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, all of you, by leading this discussion. It is very helpful and supportive for all of us. Actually, FLA, our emergency response project, is very supportive for all of us and to the affected people. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senkai.